Your mechanic is about to charge you $800 for something that costs $3. And the worst part? He's not even lying to you. Let that sink in for a second. You're driving home, normal day, normal traffic, windows down. Then it happens. That little orange battery symbol lights up on your dashboard. Your stomach drops instantly. You pull over, you grab your phone and start Googling. And every single result says the same terrifying thing. Alternator failure. Could be $400. Could be $600. Could be $800 or more. And suddenly your entire week is ruined before it even started. That feeling? That panic? That's exactly what this video is about, because I've been there. And I want to show you something that nobody in the auto industry wants you to know. So you do what every normal person does. You drive straight to the dealership. You walk in. The service advisor greets you with that warm, professional smile. He listens to your problem, nods a few times, and says, "Let me take a look." He walks out to your car, plugs in a little diagnostic tool, and you stand there watching him for about 8 minutes. 8 minutes of beeping, scrolling, tapping. 8 minutes of pure theater. Then he walks back in, sits down across from you, and delivers the line. You know, modern alternators just aren't built like the old ones. Yours is showing early signs of failure. We can have the part in by tomorrow morning. And here's the thing, he's not lying. I want to be very clear about that. The machine really did show something. The alternator really could fail down the road. But what he didn't tell you, what he conveniently left out, that's where this whole story gets interesting. He slides the estimate across the desk. You look down at the number, parts, labor, shop fees, tax. It climbs fast. On a good day, if you negotiate, maybe $500. On a normal day, $700 to $800. Just like that. Gone. And most people just pay it. Because what are you going to do? You need your car. You need to get to work. You need to pick up your kids. When something is broken and someone in a uniform tells you the price, you sign the paper and you figure out the rest later. I signed that paper once, and it took me a long time to stop being angry about it. Here's what the service advisor didn't tell you. Before an alternator actually dies, it almost always sends out a warning signal first. Not because the alternator is broken, but because the connection points around it are dirty. Years of heat, moisture, and road grime build up on the electrical terminals. That buildup creates resistance. That resistance confuses the system, and the system responds by turning on your battery warning light. The alternator itself? Completely fine. Totally healthy. Not going anywhere. The connection? One $3 spray can away from being fixed. That's the part he didn't mention, not because he's a bad person, but because cleaning a terminal with a $3 spray doesn't make the dealership any money. Replacing a $400 alternator does. Now picture this. In the corner of every hardware store, sitting right next to the WD-40, probably covered in a little dust, there's a small can. It's called electrical contact cleaner. It costs about $3, sometimes less. Most people walk past it 100 times without giving it a single thought. That $3 can has quietly saved thousands of people from $800 repair bills. Not because it's magic, but because it does something incredibly simple. It dissolves the oxidation and grime that's been choking your electrical connections, restores clean contact, and lets your alternator communicate with your car properly again. The warning light goes off, the problem disappears. Total cost? $3 and about 10 minutes of your time. I know what you're thinking. How does something that costs less than a cup of coffee fix something that a dealership wanted to charge $800 for? That's exactly the right question. And honestly, that question goes a lot deeper than just this one repair. Because once you understand why this works, once you see what's actually happening inside your car's electrical system, you will never look at a mechanic's quote the same way again. So here's what we're going to do. In the next part of this video, I'm going to pop the hood and show you exactly what to look for, exactly where to spray, and exactly what's happening inside your car when that light comes on. Because you deserve to know the truth. And the truth in this case costs $3. Before I show you what to spray and where, I need to tell you about Dale Kowalski. Because without Dale, I wouldn't know any of this, and neither would you. Dale spent 31 years rebuilding alternators, not replacing them, not swapping them out, actually taking them apart, diagnosing what went wrong, fixing the exact problem, and putting them back together. He ran a small shop out of a converted garage on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. A workbench, a few specialized tools, a coffee maker that had seen better days, and walls lined with every alternator manual printed between 1965 and 2003. Most people drove right past his shop without noticing it. The chain stores were bigger, brighter, easier to find. But the people who knew, the old-timers, the fleet mechanics, the guys who actually understood cars, they always ended up at Dale's. Dale learned this trade from a man named Pete Sherwood. Pete worked on the factory floor at Delco Remy in the 1970s, one of the biggest alternator manufacturers in American automotive history. Pete didn't just install alternators. He built them from scratch. He understood every component, every tolerance, every reason one would fail, and every reason one wouldn't. Pete passed that knowledge to Dale. Dale passed it to anyone who would listen. I was lucky enough to listen. So let me tell you what Dale told me about what actually lives inside your alternator. Most people think of an alternator as a black box, something bolted to the engine that either works or doesn't. But inside that housing is a surprisingly elegant piece of engineering. And there is one specific place where almost everything goes wrong. It's called the slip ring assembly. Here's how it works. Your alternator generates electricity through a spinning rotor. That rotor needs a small electrical current fed into it constantly while it spins. That's what creates the magnetic field that generates your power. But here's the challenge. How do you deliver electrical current to something that's spinning at thousands of RPMs? You can't use a fixed wire. It would twist and snap in seconds. So engineers solve this with slip rings, 2 smooth metal rings mounted on the rotor shaft. Stationary carbon brushes press gently against those spinning rings and maintain constant electrical contact while everything rotates. Current flows through the brushes across the slip rings into the rotor. The magnetic field is maintained, your car charges, everything works. That interface, carbon brush pressing against a spinning metal ring, is the only place in your entire alternator where moving parts make direct physical contact. That one spot. That's where everything happens. And that's where everything goes wrong. Dale showed me something once that I've never forgotten. He pulled out a service manual from 1974, opened it to the maintenance schedule section, and pointed to a line item that was listed right there alongside oil changes and air filter replacements. Slip ring cleaning. Inspect and clean every 30,000 miles. Routine maintenance. That's what it was. Not a repair, not a crisis, just a regular part of keeping your car running properly, the same way you change your oil or rotate your tires. He then pulled out a modern service manual, flipped through every page of the maintenance schedule. That line item was completely gone. Not updated, not replaced with something better, just gone. Disappeared sometime in the 1980s and never came back. So what actually goes wrong at that slip ring interface? Dale called it contamination. He was very specific about that word. Not failure, not wear. Contamination. Over time, 3 things find their way into that tiny gap between the carbon brush and the slip ring. First, oil mist. Microscopic oil particles that travel through the engine bay and settle on every surface they can find. Second, road dust. Fine particles that work their way into every crack and crevice in your engine over thousands of miles. Third, carbon dust. Fine black powder shed by the brushes themselves as they wear against the spinning rings. These 3 things combine. They bake onto the surface of the slip rings under engine heat. They form a thin, invisible layer of residue that sits between the brush and the ring and slowly degrades the electrical connection. The alternator isn't broken. The rotor isn't damaged. The brushes still have plenty of life left in them. The connection is just dirty. And a dirty connection creates resistance. Resistance creates a weak signal. A weak signal triggers your battery warning light. That's it. That's the whole problem. Decades of engineering, thousands of dollars in repairs, and the actual issue is a thin layer of grime that a proper solvent dissolves in about 30 seconds. So why doesn't your shop just clean it? Dale laughed the first time I asked him that. Not a mean laugh, a tired one. Think about economics for a second. A shop charges you $800 to replace your alternator. Of that, maybe $350 to $400 is the part itself. The rest is labor, overhead, and margin. That's a profitable job. A good hour's work, a solid markup on the part, everyone goes home happy, except you. Now think about the alternative. The technician spends 15 minutes cleaning the slip rings with a $3 can of electrical contact cleaner. Problem solved. What does the shop charge you for that? $20? $25? You'd probably complain that it was too expensive for just a spray. A $3 solution does not fit inside an $800 profit model. It never will. So the solution simply isn't offered. The cleaning procedure that was standard practice in 1974 quietly disappeared from service manuals, from training programs, from the industry conversation entirely. Not because it stopped working, because it stopped being profitable. There's something else Dale told me that has stuck with me ever since. When he started out in the late 1970s, almost every mid-sized town in America had at least one alternator rebuilding shop. Small operations, usually run by 1 or 2 people who genuinely understood the components. These shops didn't replace alternators. They fixed them. They cleaned slip rings, replaced brushes, machined worn surfaces, and sent the original unit back out in better condition than most new ones. Then the chain stores arrived. AutoZone, O'Reilly, the big national retailers with massive supply chains and warehouses full of remanufactured units. They didn't compete with rebuilding shops on quality or knowledge. They competed on convenience and marketing. They made it easier to swap a part than to fix one. The rebuilding shops closed one by one. The knowledge those mechanics carried, the diagnostic instincts, the component-level understanding, the simple maintenance procedures, most of it just evaporated. retired into garages and old notebooks and conversations like the one I had with Dale. What replaced it was a system perfectly designed to sell you a new part every time something goes wrong, whether you need it or not. Dale retired 3 years ago. His shop is a CrossFit gym now, but everything he knew, everything Pete Sherwood taught him on that factory floor in the 1970s, I'm going to show you right now, because the slip rings in your alternator are dirty, and I'm going to show you exactly how to clean them. Let me tell you about a truck. 2009. Chevy Silverado. 187,000 miles on it. Owned by a contractor named Marcus who used that truck every single day. Tools in the bed, clients to get to, jobs that couldn't wait. When his battery light came on, he did exactly what most people do. Drove to the nearest shop, got the diagnosis, got the quote, $620. Alternator replacement, labor included, back on the road by Thursday. Marcus nearly said yes. He had his wallet out. Then someone told him about Dale. He drove that truck across town, pulled into the converted garage, and watched Dale spend 11 minutes with a spray can and a lint-free cloth. Total cost, $3.47, including tax. Marcus drove that truck for another 4 years without a single electrical problem. That's not a miracle. That's just knowing what you're doing. And after the next few minutes, you're going to know exactly what you're doing too. All right, let's get into it. Before I walk you through this, let me be upfront about one thing. On most modern vehicles, the alternator is accessible without removing anything major. On some cars, certain front-wheel drive layouts, some European models, it's buried a little deeper and you might need an extra 20 minutes and one additional tool. Look up your specific model before you start. If the alternator is genuinely buried, the process is the same. It just takes a little longer to get there. For the majority of vehicles, trucks, SUVs, most sedans, this is completely straightforward. Your alternator is bolted to the engine block, usually on the side, connected to the serpentine belt. It looks like a small cylindrical motor with a pulley on the front and a plastic or metal cover on the back. That rear cover is what we're after. On most vehicles, you don't need to remove the alternator from the car to do this. That's the good news. You're going to work on it right where it sits. Look at the back of the alternator. You'll see either 2 small bolts or a few plastic clips holding the rear cover in place. Remove those. Set the cover somewhere safe where you won't lose it. When the cover comes off, you'll see the slip ring assembly, 2 concentric metal rings, usually copper-colored, with the carbon brushes sitting against them. That's what we're here for. Take a flashlight and look at those rings. If they're clean and shiny, congratulations. Your problem might be somewhere else, and you should do some more diagnosis. But in my experience, in the vast majority of cases, what you're going to see is a dull, dark, gunky surface. That gray-black residue coating those rings is years of oil mist, road dust, and carbon buildup. That's your problem, right there, visible to the naked eye. Pick up your can of electrical contact cleaner. You can get this at any hardware store, any auto parts store, online. Costs between $3 and $6 depending on brand. CRC is a good one. QD contact cleaner works perfectly. The brand honestly doesn't matter much. What matters is that it says electrical contact cleaner on the label and that it's safe for plastics. Now, here's the important part, and pay attention to this because people get it wrong. Spray directly onto the slip rings. Short bursts. You want the solvent to hit that contaminated surface and dissolve the buildup. Don't be shy with it, but don't flood the whole alternator either. Controlled, focused application. Here's what you do. Not spray, the voltage regulator, any exposed wiring connectors, the brush holder assembly if it's a separate plastic component. Keep the spray on the metal rings. The contact cleaner is safe for metal and most hard plastics, but you don't need it anywhere except exactly where the contamination is. Spray the rings. That's it. This is the step people want to skip. Don't skip it. The solvent needs time to penetrate and break down that carbon and oil residue. 60 seconds feels like nothing when you're standing there, but it makes a real difference in how thoroughly the contamination releases from the surface. After 60 seconds, take a lint-free cloth, not a paper towel, not a shop rag with loose fibers, an actual lint-free cloth, and gently wipe the surface of both slip rings. You'll see the residue transfer onto the cloth immediately. That gray-black gunk coming off onto the white cloth is exactly what was degrading your electrical connection. Wipe until the cloth comes away clean. If the rings still look dull after one pass, spray again, wait another 30 seconds, wipe again. Most of the time, 1 round is enough. Occasionally, 2 rounds are needed on a vehicle that hasn't had this done in a long time. When you're done, those rings should look noticeably cleaner. Not brand new necessarily, but clean. Shiny in patches at minimum. Reinstall the rear cover. Reconnect everything you disconnected. Close the hood. Now, before you go start the car, I need to have an honest conversation with you. This procedure fixes contamination. That's what it's designed to do. But there is one situation where contamination isn't the whole story, and I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you about it. Those carbon brushes pressing against the slip rings, they wear down over time, slowly, gradually, over many years and many miles. A healthy brush should measure at least 5 millimeters long. If you look at your brushes and they're worn down below 5 millimeters, if they're little stubby nubs barely making contact with the rings, cleaning alone won't solve the problem. The contact is weak, not because of contamination, but because there's simply not enough brush material left to maintain consistent pressure. The good news, replacement brushes for most vehicles cost between $10 and $15, so they're a consumable item, not like brake pads. Installing them is not complicated. A few screws, a soldering iron in some cases, and about 40 minutes of your time. So if you clean the rings, start the car, and the warning light is still on, check your brush length before you do anything else. 9 times out of 10, the cleaning alone will solve it. But if it doesn't, measure the brushes before you spend $1 more. Let's confirm the fix worked. Grab a multimeter. If you don't own one, get one. They cost $12 and they will save you thousands of dollars over your lifetime of car ownership. Set it to DC voltage. Start the engine. Connect the red probe to your positive battery terminal and the black probe to the negative terminal. With the engine running, a healthy charging system reads between 13.8 and 14.7 volts. The sweet spot is right around 14.2. If your multimeter is reading in that range, your alternator is charging properly. Your electrical system is healthy. The repair worked. Now look at your dashboard. That battery warning light that started this entire story, gone. I want to take a moment here because I think this is about more than a spray can and a slip ring. What just happened, if you followed these steps, is that you looked at a problem that the automotive industry told you cost $600 to $800, and you solved it yourself for $3 and 10 minutes of your time. That's not a small thing. That's the difference between being a passive consumer of a system designed to extract money from you and being someone who actually understands what they own. Dale used to say something that I think about all the time. The most expensive part of any car is ignorance. Not the alternator, not the transmission, not the engine. Ignorance. Because ignorance is what makes you sign the $800 estimate without asking a single question. Ignorance is what the entire dealership service model depends on. Information is the real repair. Everything else is just the application of it. Every single person watching this video owns a car they probably don't fully understand. And that's not a criticism. Nobody teaches you this stuff. But every time you learn one more thing about how your vehicle actually works, you take one more piece of leverage away from the people who profit from your confusion. That's worth more than any repair. Here's what I want you to do right now. Drop your car's make, model, and mileage in the comments below. Just those 3 things. Because I'm building something here, a reference guide for this community, and I want to know what you're driving. If you've already had an alternator replaced and you're sitting there wondering whether the cleaning procedure would have fixed it, tell me. If you're looking at a quote right now and you're not sure whether to sign, tell me that too. Drop it in the comments, and I'll answer personally. Because the whole point of this channel is that car knowledge shouldn't live behind a service counter. It should live right here in a community of people who refuse to be taken advantage of. You now know what Dale knew. You know what Pete Sherwood knew on that factory floor in 1974. Use it.